So for this one, we're going to use product rule because it is a product. But when we come to this part here, we're going to need chain rule. I think really the challenging part in this one, it will be more of the factoring after we do the derivative. So let's see how this goes. The derivative of, this is a product, like I said, the derivative of the first factor is just simple power rule, no chain rule at all there. The 1/2 comes to the front, x to the power of 1 over 5 minus 1, that's negative 4 over 5, times the second factor left alone, plus, I leave the first factor alone, and then I multiply by the derivative of this one. And here's where we have to do a chain rule. It's a very simple chain rule though. Notice the similarity that is with this one. The 3/5, it comes to the front. And then the x minus 1 just stays still. And then we do 3/5 minus 1, which is negative 2/5. And then we multiply by the derivative of x minus 1. Now, the derivative of x minus 1 is just 1, right? So I'm going to cheat a little bit and just erase this because the derivative of that is 1. And 1 times that doesn't change anything. So it's like that's not even there. So I hope that's not confusing. I'll just say it one more time. 3/5 comes to the front. X minus 1 stays. I do 3/5 minus 1. I get negative 2/5. But then chain rule says I have to afterwards multiply by the derivative of x minus 1. Normally I would write it there. But the derivative of x minus 1 is just 1. So if you like, I could just write a 1 there. But it doesn't do anything. So I just want to not even bother writing it. Okay. So now we can, really the derivative is done. Now maybe the hard step a little bit begins because we have to now factor this. The way to see this is, well, I have an over 5 here and an over 5 there, so that means I can factor 1 over 5 to the front. I have a power of x here and here, so I'm going to factor some power of x to the front. I also have an x minus 1 in here and here. I'm going to factor that to the front. I could do it in separate steps, but why don't we try to do it all in one shot? So, like I said, 1/5 gets factored. There's going to be a power of x that gets factored, and as we've talked about, the power that we choose is the smallest number that appears in the exponents. Here we have minus 4/5. Here we have 1/5. The smaller of that is minus 4/5. Let me write that a little bit nicer. Minus 4/5. And then we have x minus 1 here. And we take the smaller power. Between 3/5 and minus 2/5, the smaller power is minus 2/5. And now we have to, inside these square brackets, write down the stuff that remains, okay? So let's think about, for the first term here, the 1/5 is gone. So that doesn't have to be recopied because we pulled it out right there, right? And x to the minus 4/5 is already pulled out as well, so that doesn't appear there. But x minus 1 is going to appear there. And we have to decide what power goes up there, right? Well, minus 2/5 added to what gives me 3/5. If you think about that, that's 1, right? And since it's the power of 1, I really don't even have to write it. And what about over here? Why don't I just put this plus sign a little bit closer? What about over here? Well, the 1/5 has been factored out, but that 3 remains. So that 3 is going to stay there. Now, x to the power of 1/5, that's neat. We need to put something up here like before. Minus 4/5 plus what gives me 1/5? That's 1, right? And kind of like before, so we don't even have to write it. And the x minus 1 to the minus 2/5, that's already been pulled out. It's right there. So we're actually done factoring that. So why don't we write it, the square bracket there? Notice how nice this is, eh? There's no fractional powers here anymore. And that pretty much always happens when you do a product rule like this. So expect that. These negative powers maybe should be brought to the bottom level. So let's write our 5 down there. X to the positive 4 over 5 right here. And x minus 1 to the power of 2 over 5 there. And what does these brackets simplify to? Well, we have x and 3x, so that's 4x. minus 1. And if you're uncomfortable with doing all of those factorings in one shot like that, you really can do it in separate steps. But I hope you're starting to get comfortable with this factoring technique of factoring out the lowest power, because that's really comes up quite a bit, especially when you use product rule. And so we're actually done here. There's not too many lines of work there, but there are some important ideas involved there. So I hope you're getting that.